all right, this is it. I promise not to drop the handoff when you're talking or drop easy, passes in the end zone to win conference championships, or not conference. I guess is what divisional championships. So,
well, the good news is I think the conditions that we're playing in are a lot better than what those guys played in today. So, I think we have a bit of an advantage.
Depends on the game, I think. The first game with Philly was definitely, if you like weather, that was the game to watch.
Yeah. This year's edition of the Snowball was definitely in Philadelphia this week. So, and I got to hand it to
a good snow game, where it's just like that. Yeah.
Who does it? It kind of takes you back to when you were a little kid and you get all your friends out and go play football outside. And nobody can hang on to the ball and you just tackle each other in the snow. Good times, man.
Yeah. The second game was the better, I think, of the two games. They were both actually pretty decent games, but yeah,
I agree.
I feel bad for Mark Andrews dropping that. The game tying 2-point conversion after they get down the field, and Lamar played great.
He did. I think after you watch him, especially today, but in these playoffs, I mean, I think he's the MVP.
So today's games don't matter.
Yeah,
they've already voted for the MVP at this point. We just won't find out who it is.
Right. They have, but I'm just saying you're watching the kind of player that he really is. I mean, the guy could do everything. Yes. I mean, he could throw a ball, 50 yards on a dart down the field. He can outrun just about every defender that's in the league. He makes good decisions. It's interesting to see where he came from versus what people thought of him coming into the draft back at 7 years ago, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I think we talked about this, I don't know, last week or maybe the week before, but it was, he's just another running quarterback. And nah, man, he's good. He throws 4,000 yards, came 4 yards short of 1,000 rushing. And I think he was better than Josh Allen today overall. I know he threw an interception.
For sure.
But
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. He had a much bigger effect on the game than Josh Allen did. I mean, obviously the Ravens are nowhere near where they are without him. So,
yeah. But
it's too bad.
You can't have 3 turnovers in a playoff game and expect to win. The fact that they were even in it at the end is really, I think, great coaching, because it seemed like Buffalo really came out flat in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, they did nothing really in the third quarter. And Ravens defense wasn't nearly as existent in the first half as they were in the second, obviously. But Baltimore being down their top receiver, I think he went down, before the first game of the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. But missing him, they found that Isaiah Likely, the tight end 2, and Lamar just went to him early. And then finally, Andrews and Bateman, and I mean, Derrick Henry had close to another 100 yards on the ground. But, you knew it was going to be the game of the weekend. And I think it turned out to be the game of the weekend. Although, I know you said you missed half of it. That Detroit-Washington thing was a thing.
Yes,
that was a thing.
I was flying pretty much all day back from Ottawa, and I was up at 2 a.m. to get a 5 a.m. flight. And then, YouTube TV and NFL Sunday Ticket do not work in Canada, as I unfortunately found out. So
yeah, you mentioned that.
I got to see a couple game casts and things like that. But by the time I got home, I was beat, so I was only able to really stay awake for the first half.
Yeah. Well, I guess before we get into that game, we'll get into the game that you missed. Kansas City won. The NFL loves Mahomes. It's very obvious that they love Mahomes. They love to protect him. Even Troy Aikman thought one of the roughing the passer penalties was complete garbage. It's obvious the NFL wants the Chiefs in this as long as they can. They love the Chiefs. They love Mahomes. They love Taylor Swift. They love all of it. That's all I'm going to say about that game, because other than that, honestly, it was kind of boring, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it seems like a whole lot of field goals and 1 or 2 touchdowns, and that was about it.
Yeah, and Chiefs might be looking for a new kicker next year, because Harrison Butker was not normal at all.
Oh, yeah?
So we'll see. But I don't think this Chiefs team can get past Buffalo. I know the game will be in Kansas City. I don't think it matters. I think Buffalo is too good.
I think you're right. And the only reason I hesitate is because Kansas City has had this golden horseshoe lodged way up their ass this entire season and have found so many ways to win games. They're the Bizarro Bears, as I've called them. Is it going to be another, 13-10 slugfest? Is it going to be an offensive? I don't know. I want Buffalo to win. I think Buffalo is the better team.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I think this is the fourth time that Josh Allen and Mahomes will face off in the playoffs. I don't think Allen has beaten him yet, if I'm not mistaken. I just think the NFL loves a good storyline. Obviously, the Chiefs going for 3 in a row is a good story. They don't get me wrong, the Chiefs are good. It's just like you said, they just get so damn lucky, and it's almost annoying. And I compare the Chiefs to almost like the luck of the Irish that Notre Dame gets all the time. You know what I mean? And I will go on record. I cannot stand Notre Dame. And I know I've got friends who listen to this that love Notre Dame. I hope Ohio State kicks the absolute shit out of Notre Dame on Monday night. And I think they will. But anyway.
Wow. Shots fired, Jason.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's Bob, Ray. I'm sorry. I know you love your Fighting Irish, but I hate them. So there you go.
All right. Well, Bob, Ray, I don't give a shit who wins because I don't care about college football. So you got that going for you.
Yeah, there you go. But I just think Buffalo is going to be too strong for the Chiefs next week. So we'll see.
I hope so. I hope so because I want to see the luck run out.
Yeah.
I'm not a hater, I guess, but it's just like, come on. Like, they're not that good. They should not be this far in
I want to see a
playoffs.
team that actively deserves to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the Chiefs don't deserve to be there, but they've just had everything go their way, So,
well, if you want to go to the game, I'm looking at tickets as low as $303 to go to Arrowhead Stadium in January. I'm sure the weather will be nice and warm and comfortable.
I'll pass.
Yes.
I'll pass, even though I know Taylor will be in attendance. And when Caitlin Clark was in attendance this week. So
I saw that.
Yeah. So, and the star from the WNBA was at the game. But, hey, I hope the Bills win. But, let's talk Commanders-Lions. Because I don't think anybody
in that game.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expected that to happen. The high scoring, Washington just coming out and going absolutely bananas in the first half. You had almost 600 yards of total offense between the two teams in the first half alone.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Which was
that
absolutely crazy.
Was absolutely crazy. Washington puts up 28 points in the second quarter, and Detroit puts up 14.
Yeah.
That's a shit ton of points for one quarter of NFL football.
Yeah,
that's a game right there for most. That's the Bears. That's
a Bears game for the most
over
part.
3 or 4 games. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Jared Goff obviously had an off night. He threw, was it 3 interceptions or 2?
3 interceptions.
Can't remember. 3 interceptions.
He had a fumble lost as well. Yeah, he wasn't good.
He was not good. On the contrary, once again, Jaden Daniels was outstanding.
Yeah.
The guy continues to impress. And I will go ahead and pose the question, is there a better quarterback right now in the NFC than Jaden Daniels?
Ooh, that is a tough one. I got to look at my NFC teams and see here real quick. So, NFC, not the Eagles, not the Cowboys, not the Giants. You could argue Jared Goff had a really good year.
Okay.
Do you penalize him for the one bad game here at the end? Actually, 2 bad games.
No, I don't think you do. No.
I think, Jared Goff is right there. Is he as athletic? No. But he's got stats. You could say the same thing about Sam Darnold. He had a great year despite him shitting the bed in the last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who else. Baker Mayfield had a great year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking down the list here, and no,
here, if you're an NFC, team.
Yeah.
If you're an NFC team and you got to go out and win one game, who are you taking right now?
Yeah. it's so hard to say I'm going to pick Jaden Daniels. I know how good he's been, but he's a rookie. Like, when does his horseshoe come out?
Yeah, when does he blink? Essentially,
Right.
I mean, 'cause he's out there playing eyes wide open.
Calm. Yeah,
everything's brand new. Everything's hunky dory. It's working. You know, granted, they've had a couple lucky things happen to them. One of those being courtesy of the Bears. I just think if Tyreek Stevens had played defense on one play instead of yelling at the fans, that Hail Mary doesn't happen. Where does the Bears season go? Where does the Commanders season go? It's just,
well, even if you just look at like playoff stats, he and CJ Stroud are more than 200 yards ahead of third place, which is Jared Goff at 313. Jaden Daniels has 567 yards passing.
Yeah.
Now, I think he's played an extra game than some of these players, obviously.
Yes.
But he's got 4 touchdowns, no interception. He's only taken 1 sack in the playoffs. I mean, that's pretty fantastic.
That's incredible. Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, I saw him throw a pass about 50 yards down the field, and I don't think that thing got higher than 15 feet off the ground. It was a dart. And I'm just, again, of course, Bears fan, I relate everything back to Caleb. I want to love Caleb. I want Caleb to do well. I want him to be everything that almost every scout thought he was going to be. I think he can get there. But, man, watching the guy that we passed up to take Caleb just rock and roll every fucking game that he plays, and seems like he hits on every goddamn play that he makes, and he just walks out there with a smile, and this game looks easy to him, right?
So, yes, and it's great. I do think he's got a much better team around him because statistically, on the regular season, they had very similar stats.
They did.
They were within, let's see, Jaden threw for 27 more yards on the season. Okay. That's it. He threw for 5 more touchdowns. He threw for 3 more interceptions. And he threw, 20 fewer passes.
Okay.
Or completed 20 fewer passes. Threw, 82 fewer passes on the season. The difference between the two is completion percentage. Jaden went for 69%, nice, on the year.
Yeah.
And Caleb was at 62.5.
Yeah, we've talked about this. You put Caleb up at 69, 70%. He's probably throwing for close to 4,000. Probably got another 3 or 4 touchdowns. The completion percentage is obviously higher. Yeah, and everything looks better. Bears fans are happy. They probably win. Yeah, right. And they probably win, maybe 2 or 3 more games, right? And we're a little bit further along, and we say, oh, well, despite the piece of shit offensive line that they have, Caleb still won 7 games instead of 3. So, I hear you. But God, like I said, watching Daniels play, I'm just like, oh man,
he's just fun to watch. I like watching Lamar play. I mean, it's we're really in a great era right now where there's a lot of good quarterbacks out there.
Oh yeah,
which isn't
you're
right.
Right.
What's happened?
No. Quarterback play roughly 6-7 years ago was kind of but now a lot of excitement at the quarterback position for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one hell of a game. I mean,
it was.
The offense put up in that. It was good. Like I said, I wish I had stayed away for the second half, but it feels like to me as I looked at the stats, and as soon as I woke up the next morning, I was there. What happened? That the second half was pretty much kind of the same as the first half.
It was. Washington didn't slow down. Detroit really couldn't keep up. They tried their best, but anytime they got close, Goff turned it over. I mean, it's hard to blame it on Goff, right? Because he has to be aggressive. He's got to throw the football. You got to take shots, especially, late in the game. They're down 2 scores. He took a shot in the end zone. It didn't work out. So, you can't really just blame the quarterback. Obviously, Detroit's defense gave up 45 points.
Yeah.
So, football's a team game. So, it's not like one guy can blow it for you.
5 turnovers. Another game that you can't turn the ball 5 times to win very often.
No. And, Goff was lucky to do that once this year when he threw 5 picks and won a game.
Yeah.
But not today, my friend.
Yeah,
or I
no,
should
exactly.
say not yesterday, my friend. But Yeah, and then you had, Barkley doing his thing in Philadelphia, ran for what? I think it was
crazy. Was it 200 yards?
What,
I think
200,
it was
200 some yards.
Yeah, 205. Two
Yeah.
touchdowns, including a long one to kind of seal it at the end there.
Yeah, he had, I think, a 76 and a 61 today. So those were obviously a bulk of the yards. But, I mean, I think what you're seeing is if you have a solid offensive line, you are going to be successful in this league. Or I should say, you're going to have a much better chance at success in this league. You control the line of scrimmage. Yeah, you control the line of scrimmage, you are going to make plays. You're going to be able to, Barkley's second run, all he had to do was skate to the left, hit the hole, and he was gone.
Yeah, he broke one tackle split between those two defenders.
Yeah.
Got, an arm on him in passing. That's not going to do it. And then, a little bump. That wasn't going to do it either.
Now, granted, Barkley, I'm not just saying he gets that because of the offensive line, but they create the hole and he hits it, he sees it, he's got the vision, and it's just, see you later. So
I don't remember who the commentators were in that game today, but they talked about chemistry between the offensive line and the running back. And they mentioned it a couple times and how good of chemistry that Barkley and the Philadelphia offensive line.
It was Tirico and Collinsworth today.
Okay, that's what it was.
It's the NBC crew.
And you normally don't think about that, I think. Usually you're thinking about the quarterback and chemistry with receivers or, I guess chemistry with the offensive line and, where to block because you never know if it's going to roll out or whatever, right? Stuff like that. But, it showed today, I guess. I haven't really thought about it. I don't know my thoughts. I just thought it was interesting that it got mentioned a couple times.
It did. Yeah, I remember I remember that part in the game when they were talking about that. And I think that's when they mentioned, I think this is the first time it's come out, was Barkley actually wanted to play week 17, but it was the coaching staff that talked him out of it. And he publicly said, I want to try and break the record for the offensive line. He goes, yeah, it's as much their record as it is mine, which is true, right? You can't be a successful running back without a good offensive line. Yeah. It's impossible. It's next to impossible. So
he's good though. Worth it.
Yes, he is.
Signing perspective.
Yes, he is.
Is he the free agent pickup of the year?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I don't think it's even close. I can't even mention another free agent that was signed that has made near the impact as Saquon Barkley has in Philadelphia.
I can't think of one either, but I haven't really thought about it.
Imagine his career stats if he hadn't been drafted by such a crappy Giants team.
Yeah, I think this is...
Imagine where he'd be right now.
He got paid. He went to Philly. Giants let him go. Hey, he went and got paid in a market where they don't typically pay running backs.
Right.
And good for him. And it's probably the best thing he could have done for his career as well, which never happens, right? Usually you get paid and you're on a shit team. And if you're really good, that's kind of a bonus. But if you're out looking on the market and you're going to get paid and you're having a career, that's pretty rare.
Yeah, because most guys, once they get paid, I hate to say it, they drop off because they already got the money.
Yeah.
Right? But
I'd argue he's definitely the number one. Derrick Henry, don't forget, he was a free agent. And him going to Ravens, that's a great pickup for the Ravens. And he was extremely effective all year.
Yeah, I still think Barkley tops it, though.
Oh, yeah. I'm just thinking of other kind of impact ones. And I think the top three have to be Barkley, Derrick Henry, and the little-known journeyman Sam Darnold in Minnesota. He was a free agent, too.
That's fair.
I don't think anybody expected him to play. Because, it just, they drafted the quarterback ahead of him, but for $10 million, I think is what he got paid. Goes out and wins, 14 games, 15 games?
He's going to be a story to follow this offseason. It's going to be an interesting offseason.
Yeah.
Which brings me to, guess who's available now?
Let's see. Any of the coaches that are associated with any of the teams that lost today.
Yes, and that includes one particular coach that I know you and I both like. One Ben Johnson is now officially available for the taking.
Yeah, so article I read today said that it's basically Bears, Raiders, and Jacksonville Jaguars. And he's going to set up interviews with all three. And then we should know by this time next week where he ends up landing.
I was going to say, this should be done by the end of the week.
Yes.
What's
your gut tell you?
Okay, if you look at, there are three very different situations in my mind, okay? Come to the Bears, you've got, obviously, a bit of a project. You've got a culture issue, but you've got a young rookie quarterback that is probably dying to learn from you and listen to what you have to say and basically turn him into, a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. Because I think he has that potential. It's the coaching. So you have that. You go to Jacksonville, you have an established quarterback, but it's a team that's never really turned the corner, right? So is Trevor Lawrence a good long-term solution for them? It almost would be like inheriting another Jared Goff type, right? Where a guy who's been in the league for a few years, is good, but hasn't had a whole lot of overall success, right? Has the potential, but obviously there's a lot that needs to go with it. Or do you go to the Raiders, who have a very dynamic tight end rookie who you can build your offense around? The guy's first team All-Pro in his rookie year, but really nothing else. The Raiders struggle, obviously.
But Tom Brady. Come on, doesn't
that's
that
the
count
other
for
thing.
anything?
You have Tom Brady as part of the ownership.
But isn't he like a super minority owner? Like, I think he's just there for the publicity of him being associated with the franchise. He doesn't really do anything.
They have Mark Davis, I think, is the majority owner. Mm-hmm. But would Mark Davis kind of take a back seat to Tom Brady and say, hey, Tom, why don't you have, more say in the actual football? I'll handle the business side. I still wonder how that works, that Tom Brady's a part owner of an NFL team, yet he's allowed to be an NFL commentator, which I think is
interesting. Maybe it's because he's only a 5% stake in the team.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, it is interesting, and I think they flexed him out of the game with Detroit, like he was supposed to call it or something, and I think they moved it so that he was not doing it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are around that. I don't know if that's been an issue before, but
yeah,
I don't necessarily. I don't think have a problem with it, because what does he get? I mean, what's the benefit that he's getting as a commentator?
Actually, no. I think he called the Detroit game yesterday, didn't he?
Did he? I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I'm almost
yeah, you might be right.
He did.
I thought they did that for the previous week, but
maybe.
Who cares? Does it matter? You think Tom Brady's not going to be able to get a hold of Ben Johnson if he wants to?
Well, right. Yeah. So that doesn't really matter.
I mean, it's interesting what you said about, was it Mark Davis? He's the owner, right, of the Raiders.
Yeah.
If he's willing to take a step back like that,
to defer to Tom Brady.
I mean, I guess look, Mark Davis is a billionaire, and he thinks his 25-year-old hot girlfriend is with him because he has a nice smile. Hey, good on you, buddy. That ain't it, Bo. So, maybe he is missing a few things up there, but covered up by that horrendous haircut he's got.
Yeah.
I mean, 5% ownership. Who else owns the Raiders that would have 5% that know football? Does Tom Brady know football enough to say, here's what makes a good coach? When his, I mean, it was Bill Belichick and Todd Bowlens, or so two head coaches that he had?
He had Bruce Arians.
Oh, Bruce Arians, yeah.
Bruce Arians and Belichick. And I mean, Tom Brady, first off, a lot of people don't like him as a commentator. I like him. He's better than I thought he would be. I don't think he's great, but I didn't think Romo was that great either when he started. I'm not a Romo guy, but Romo's very good at what he does now because he's had a few years to do it. And I think Tom Brady could eventually evolve into a Tony Romo type. I think it was wrong to take Greg Olsen off the number one broadcast team because Greg Olsen is very good, but I mean, he's Tom Brady. So, you're going to throw all that money at him and he's going to do the game of the week every week. But yeah, I mean, if I'm Mark Davis and I have Tom Brady as one of my minority owners, I'm going to listen to him. Guy won 7 Super Bowls, man.
Yeah, of course. I just feel like for 5%, that 5% is really a marketing push. Hey, come see.
I'm sure it's a lot
hey,
to do with
Brady's here. It's almost like what was it? Basketball teams, right? That get celebrities and stuff like that to be part of their team. Same idea. Hey,
when Jay-Z owned the Brooklyn Nets, you remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but it seems to me like if you read the news that the Raiders have the inside track right now on Ben Johnson, which would be a little bit surprising.
Because the Raiders don't have a GM either.
Right.
So they kind of
I still think Poles is out the door if that's the condition of Ben Johnson coming in. Let's see you later.
It'll be interesting. Although, I mean, Ryan Poles and the Bears brass have conducted 17 interviews already. Mm-hmm. They talked to Eddie George today.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the interview with Abe Froman, Hot Dog King of Chicago or Sausage King of Chicago, whatever it was. They have turned over every rock in this thing.
So here's a question. So 2 names that they have not talked to yet, one of which they might be able to. Again, I don't know the rules. They have not talked to Cliff Kingsbury yet because Kingsbury's still in the playoffs. And they have yet, I don't know if they're going to be able to talk to him. I don't know if he's going to want to talk to the Bears. They have yet to talk to Marcus Freeman, the head coach of Notre Dame, because he's been a little busy preparing for the national title game on Monday. I guess my question to you is, can they afford to wait? With Ben Johnson sitting out there available, if that's their guy, obviously I think you got to make the push for him right now.
Yeah, but Ben Johnson's not going to make a decision until he's talked to all 3 teams. It's unlikely that everything happens by tomorrow. I would assume by Tuesday, Marcus Freeman will be available. Cliff Kingsbury, I think, is the wild card. I don't think they can talk to him until, Super Bowl week, or they lose. The week before Super Bowl, or they lose.
I think that's correct.
I still think it's Ben Johnson. If he's willing to make the decision this week, great. Go for it. If he informs that they're not available and you start seeing interviews pop up on Thursday and Friday, sounds to me like Ben Johnson's not picking the Bears. Or the Bears just continue to do their diligence. And frankly, that's what they should be doing, right? Hey, we're hoping to get you, but we can't stand still.
We can't wait.
Waiting for you.
Right.
Yeah. Unless there are very serious negotiations taking place and, hey, and here's the phone call. Hey, I want to go there, but I want to bring my own GM.
I hope it's Ben Johnson. I do. Even though I don't know why he called a play for a wide receiver to throw a pass.
That play.
He does.
0 for 2 with 2 interceptions on that play.
Yes, down the field, down 10 points in the fourth quarter of a playoff game. Not sure why he called that. I know he loves his gimmick plays because the one gimmick play, that happened earlier when, the handoff to Montgomery and then the pitch to, I think it was Jamison Williams.
Yep.
That play was awesome.
Yep.
And I'm like, God. And I even said it out loud. I'm like, this is why the Bears need this guy, because he's creative. He doesn't throw just wide receiver screens every other play. He does stuff, that teams can execute. So, I want Ben Johnson. I hate to say this, but my gut tells you we end up with Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. And I don't know if I like that.
I don't want to say it's a bad thing. Would I be disappointed? Yeah. Would I think McCarthy do a pretty good job? Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it. He oversaw the development of Aaron Rodgers. He oversaw the development of Dak Prescott. He's been to the playoffs 12 times in 18 seasons. He has won a Super Bowl. So the resume's there. It's just, if you hire McCarthy, it just feels like a letdown.
So McCarthy, for me, does not pass the Marie Kondo test. He does not spark joy for me. So that is how I feel about it. Maybe he's a good coach. I don't know. But there is no joy sparked with McCarthy at all for me.
I'm there.
If that's what we end up with, we'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, no joy.
No, I'm right there with you. There will be no joy in Mudville if McCarthy's hired. So it is what it is.
So let's say it's not Ben Johnson. Who's left? Who's number 2? that you
Well,
want?
I think in the Bears' eyes, it's McCarthy. But as far as who I would want,
do you go after somebody like Aaron Glenn? Do you go after somebody like Todd Monken?
I think both of those guys are good choices. I think if Ben Johnson makes a decision and it's not the Bears, I think you hold out and talk to Cliff Kingsbury. I think Joe Brady from Buffalo. Yeah, I think there are names. There's still. I don't think the quality coaches list ends with Ben Johnson. If that's what you're asking me, I think there are guys out there that can handle it.
I think so too. I'm just wondering who you think is who's your number 2 pick. If we're both on Ben Johnson bandwagon, who is number 2?
I would say Kingsbury, and part of it's because obviously what he's doing in Washington right now. But I think the other part of it is he's got the previous relationship with Caleb. He's worked with him before and had success with him before. Obviously, USC football is a little bit different than Chicago Bears football. But I think there's something to that. So I think there's a comfort level there. And the thing you have to do with Caleb right now, as quick as possible, is get him comfortable. The guy's been through 2 head coaches, 3 offensive coordinators. Granted, only 1 playbook, but still 3 different guys, in that position in 1 year. We've got to settle things down for Caleb Williams, in my opinion.
Yeah. They need some consistency.
For sure.
I don't know if I have a second choice. It's just, I don't like, for me, Mike McCarthy isn't it. I think, Brady or Kingsbury, somebody offensive. Give me, I hate to say it, but I almost don't care what we do on defense. I want to see points on the board consistently.
Right.
And let's fix the offense and the offensive line.
Yeah.
And then let's work on the defense. We cannot wait with Caleb Williams. We can't wait 3 or 4 years to develop him. Has to be now.
Yeah, I think there's more pure talent on the defensive side that we can work with and that, you can maneuver and make something happen with. Obviously, they need a pass rusher. I think they need another guy in the middle, but they have guys. Offensive line, they don't have guys. They have turnstiles. That's what they have. So that's where they need a lot of help. So, and they need help with the scheme. So that's what I think. So
I'm with you.
Yeah. So do you think Washington can go into Philly and win? What do you think?
I think Philly is vulnerable. Despite how good Saquon has been, Jalen Hurts again looked like he got maybe hurt today with his knee injury. He has not been playing well passing the ball. Been very one-dimensional. I think Washington's got a shot. Yeah,
I do too.
If Philly has been playing plays like they have been for the last couple of weeks now, 2 or 3, 4 weeks, and Jaden Daniels continues to excel, that wouldn't surprise me as a Washington victory. And I don't even know who's favored at this point. I assume Philly is just by having the home field, the 3 there. -6 it looks like is the opening.
Okay,
so Philly is favored by basically you get 3 points. 3 points for home?
Yeah,
and so they're basically saying 3 if it was a neutral site.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me. I think they can go in. And sorry, Chad, I think they will go in. I hope Philadelphia and win. I hope they do.
This play, I'm rooting for Washington. I want to see them win.
Yeah,
I want to see
not?
Washington and Buffalo.
It's a fun story. I think Washington Buffalo in the Super Bowl would be awesome. So
let's go. Tickets are as low as $738, twice as much as if you were going to Kansas City.
So even the Kansas City folks don't really. They're tired of it. No, I'm kidding. They're probably not. But I think the Daniels story rolls on. I don't think it ends in Philadelphia. How crazy would that be? What they go into Tampa Bay, win, go into Detroit, win, and then potentially go into Philadelphia and win. 3 road playoff games would be quite a run for a rookie quarterback. There aren't many other rookie NFL seasons that would match that, in my opinion.
And that would be a pretty amazing turnaround from last year. From where they were,
no doubt.
All right, I'm with you. Let's see. I do like Washington, and I do like Buffalo, and I think that's our Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'll ride with that, man.
All right.
When we talk next week on Championship Sunday, We'll see if that comes to fruition.
By that point, I think both games will be over, and we'll know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, what else?
Crazy. So, well, here in Chicago, this weekend was their annual Cubs convention. And I know, Barb, your wife is a huge Cubs fan.
Mm-hmm.
I know you are not. I know you're not a baseball fan of any
Baseball's boring
kind.
as shit. Yep.
I know.
But tell me.
If you're a Cub fan, a lot of things happened at Cubs convention. One was the introduction of Kyle Tucker, their new outfielder, who they did agree to a 1-year deal, avoiding arbitration. I thought it was ridiculous that you trade for a top 10 player in the game, and then you're not willing to pony up an extra $2 million a year in hopes for this year, in hopes of extending him for the future. But they did come to an agreement at 1 year. I think it was $16.5 million, which for Kyle Tucker is a steal. And he'll play this year, and I'm sure they'll talk extension if he wants to. He's probably close to a $300 million player. I think I mentioned it. It might even be higher than that down the road. Very good player. But at least for the Cubs, that's done. They were all smiles at the convention. They sang happy birthday to Kyle Tucker at the convention in front of all the people. It was all hunky-dory. Second thing that happened at the Cubs convention was the return after 21 years of one Sammy Sosa.
Yeah. I'm a Sammy fan. I don't care if he was juiced.
It's hard.
He and Mark McGwire are the only reason I cared about baseball for one season.
We talked about that. Yes, we talked about that. So Sammy was basically exiled from the Cubs once he was, I believe he was traded at the end of his run here. Sammy was like must-see TV, right? Okay. I mean, they, like we were talking about in 98 when it was the home run chase, and they would, he would come to bat, or McGwire would come to bat, and it would be breaking news. He would break into games just to see them hit. I think Sammy went on to hit 60 home runs 3 years in a row. He's the only player ever to do that, if I'm not mistaken. But he's back, one, because he was elected to the Cubs Hall of Fame this year with, I believe, Derek Lee. So him and Derek Lee will go into the Cubs Hall of Fame. And he was back because he supposedly apologized for quote-unquote mistakes that he made during his career.
Okay, so is the whole PED stuff the reason he was exiled from the Cubs? Like the Cubs just didn't want to have anything to do with it?
Pretty much.
Okay,
and it's the owner.
And I'm sure he's the only Cub to ever have done PEDs.
Well, here's the thing. It's Tom Ricketts, the owner, who was not the owner of the Cubs at the time when Sammy played. He was just a fan. But it was Ricketts who said, if he wants to come back and be a part of this organization, he needs to apologize for what he did. So Sammy apologized for mistakes he made during his career. He never publicly said what those mistakes were, but he did apologize for the mistakes. Him and Ricketts hugged it out. Everything was hunky-dory. And Sammy was at the convention. He came out waving the American flag just like he did after all the 9/11 stuff, with baseball coming back, high-fiving fans, high-fiving players. It was like the old Sammy was back. Very talkative, very, kissing the fingers, all that stuff, and, doing these Sammy things, Sammy basically being Sammy, which was pretty cool at the convention.
Yeah, I'm good with this. So, I mean, look, he's iconic for the Cubs, and it's a shame that it took 21 years to happen, I guess, for him to come back, but I'm a Sammy fan. I don't care if players use PEDs as long as everybody has access to them. I want my athletes to be the biggest, baddest dudes on the planet and do things that normal people can't do.
Well, yeah. I mean, basically,
really care. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, what Sammy did wasn't necessarily illegal, right? I mean, they didn't really have any steroid testing at that time. It was just always a thing that was suspicion, maybe frowned upon, all that thing. There was an investigation done, and it was called the Mitchell Report that came out. I believe I wrote it down. It came out in like 2007. And December 2007. And after it was like 20 months of investigation, there was 89 players named to the Mitchell Report that supposedly were guilty of taking steroids or PEDs at the time. Now, Sammy Sosa was not on that list, which I found interesting. But at the same time, a book came out called Game of Shadows that basically detailed his alleged PED or performance-enhancing drug use big time. And basically, he was linked to what was called the Balco scandal, which was also Barry Bonds' connection to steroids. And everybody, knows the story about Barry Bonds. Little skinny guy when he started. All of a sudden, everything grew, including his head, due to PEDs. Now, they started random drug testing in 2003. And when they did that, they found that somewhere between 5 and 7% of all baseball players tested positive. That's a lot. They figured it was, they being the league office figured it's ruining our game. It's not making the game fair. I'm with you. Everybody had access to it. I think it's up to each his own to decide what they want to do with their bodies, right? Whatever the long-term effects are or were or are going to be, we haven't necessarily seen it yet, or we haven't heard any problems from anybody. But then they put testing in place. They tested for, certain things and then decided the players found something else. They found another thing called HGH, which is human growth hormone. And then they took that. Baseball then retaliated and said, okay, we're going to test for that. And as of 2015, they now test for what? It's like 8 different abusive drugs, such as cocaine or things like that. 74 different performance-enhancing drugs, including HGH, and 56 stimulants. And now there's a very harsh penalty in place for anybody who gets caught. First time you get caught, you get suspended 80 games. Second time you get caught, you get suspended for an entire year. And the third time, you are banned for life. And there have been some big names that have hit that 80-game suspension. I think Manny Ramirez, got it. And somebody else who's a pretty decent name escapes me right now. But now drug testing in baseball is pretty serious. So the steroid thing has kind of gone away, but it has kept guys out of, or Alex Rodriguez is the guy I was thinking of. He was actually gone for an entire year. It's kept guys out of the Hall of Fame. Sammy Sosa should be in the Hall of Fame. Mark McGwire should be in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds, in my opinion, should be in the Hall of Fame. Alex Rodriguez, who is number 4 or number 5 in career home runs, should be in the Hall of Fame. But all of these guys are linked to, possible steroid use. Roger Clemens, Andy Pettitte, other pitchers too. So, it's to each his own. I think it was part of the game for a long time. There are references to steroids actually in the Hall of Fame. I've seen it, but none of the players that were linked to it are in the Hall of Fame. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what to say to it other than, honestly, I don't care if it's not illegal, then why are you being punished for it? Now, obviously, it's a different sport now, right? It is illegal, or at least MLB has made it illegal for their players.
Right.
So it is what it is, but I'm happy Sosa's back. He's probably my favorite all-time Cubs player, and purely because he was hitting home runs and he made the sport exciting.
Yeah, I don't think really he had anything to apologize for, because at the time he didn't really do anything wrong because nothing was illegal at the time. Yeah, he hit the cork bat. That's a different story. Yes, he admitted he used a cork bat in batting practice to put on a show for the fans. And he supposedly accidentally used that bat in a game one time. It broke, cork went everywhere. So be it. The other thing he's known for is he smashed a boombox in the locker room on his way out. So, no, I'm sorry. It was Kerry Wood who actually smashed Sammy's boombox on the way out because supposedly he was a terrible teammate. I don't see how the guy could be a terrible teammate because he basically carried the team through the late 90s. and early
Well,
2000s.
I get a sense of a little diva action
Maybe.
from Sammy. Maybe, especially when I think it's just human nature, right? You're on a pedestal at that point, and you're hitting all these home runs, and you're kind of the face of the sport for at least for the Cubs, and that stuff goes to people's heads, like whatever.
It does. Maybe it does, but I mean, they don't get near the attention that they got at the time without him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. So I mean, I can see Sammy being a little bit of a diva, especially in the locker room. And hey, good on Kerry for smashing that. Yeah. How old are you? Tell me how old you are without telling me how old you are. Smashing a boombox.
Yeah. So, it is good to see Sammy back with the Cubs, and because I know that was a thing for a long time where, he had no association. It's like, where in the world is Sammy Sosa? Nobody knew where he was. Then he was in the Dominican, just kind of hiding out, doing his thing. And now, he can do things with the team and become maybe an ambassador or whatever, and, make appearances and things like that. The last thing, and kind of a cool story, but kind of a sad story. Ryne Sandberg was at the convention, which is good news. 65 years old, although he is battling, metastatic prostate cancer. Was diagnosed in 2024, January, had chemo, had radiation. Apparently was declared cancer-free in August, but it was announced just last month that the cancer has returned. Apparently it's expanded to other parts of his body. Apparently the treatment's a lot more intensive now. But he was out there shaking hands, waving to fans. Good to see Rhino out in public despite what he's going through. Hall of Famer 2005, was named the 8th best second baseman of all time by ESPN. He is one of 20 second basemen in the Hall of Fame. And when he retired, he was the all-time home run leader for second baseman ever. So really good to see Rhino out there. One of my favorite Cubs, even though I'm a Sox guy, watching Rhino play second base every day on TV was something special. And I think everybody who's a Cub fan remembers the quote-unquote Sandberg game against the Cardinals, where he hit 2 home runs off of Bruce Sutter in extra innings to win it on a day where he went, I think, 5 for 6, which on NBC's Game of the Week, it was pretty awesome. So glad to hear Rhino's doing better. Keep up the fight, man.
Mm-hmm. That's a tough break.
Yeah. I mean, cancer doesn't discriminate, man. It can pop up in anybody, unfortunately. So moving on to this week's episode of Who Did the Dodgers Sign? Well, the Dodgers had a big week again, signing Japanese amateur pitcher. Because he's only 23, he is referred to as an amateur international free agent. However, he is a rising star who throws 102 miles an hour, Roki Sasaki. And what's interesting about this is because he's under 25, they have 6 years of control for him. He gets a $6.5 million signing bonus, and they only have to pay him in his first year $760,000.
Wow, that's a steal.
So, yeah. So for a guy who's going to be in your rotation, in a rotation where there's a $700 million guy, 2 $300 million guys, and a $180 million guy, and then you got Roki at the back end throwing for $760,000.
So you mentioned that he got a $6.5 million signing bonus?
Yes.
And then is it because of his age, I guess, or it's his first contract or whatever? That's why he only gets $700,000 for the year.
Yeah. So the international signing rules say that if you have a guy that you are signing, he's an international player, comes from Japan or Korea or whatever, you can sign him for the league minimum to start, if that makes sense. So the league minimum in MLB right now is $760,000. Okay, so you can sign him for that. Now you can give him a bonus, signing bonus. I'm not sure what the parameters around the bonus are, but I think they maxed out what they can sign him for as far as the signing bonus goes. Now, once he starts playing, they can then, before the 6 years runs out, they could choose to extend him. Okay. For example, for Chicago fans, that's kind of what the White Sox did with Yoan Moncada, which turned out to be a huge mistake because they were on the hook for, I believe it was $20 million for his last year where he got hurt and did basically nothing. And they're in the middle of that with Luis Robert, where they gave him an 8-year, I think it was 8 years, $80 million before he ever played a major league game. So you can extend a guy once you have him in your system, but to bring him in, it only costs you the league minimum if he's under the age of 25, which Roki is.
So I saw something where other teams were offering more money.
Yes.
For him.
Yes.
When does this guy get paid? Is it after he completes a year and they see what they're doing and they're like, oh yeah, we got to extend this guy now? Well,
I think that's up to
we
the
can
Dodgers.
lock him up for $1 billion before he turns into a $2 billion pitcher.
Yeah, I think that's up to the Dodgers and what they want to do. I think he's signed there for a couple reasons. They have Ohtani, obviously. They also have Yamamoto. So there's 2 Japanese players that Sasaki has played with in the past for the Japanese national team. They were on the team that won the World Baseball Classic a couple years ago. So he's got familiarity with them. I guess it was a phone call from Ohtani that's pretty much sealed the deal. Basically makes sense. Come to L.A. They've got the biggest Japanese market in baseball. Them and Seattle probably, but obviously the Dodgers have, now they've got worldwide following. They signed they have 3 Japanese pitchers. They have a Korean shortstop, and they've, got guys from the Dominican, and then, all the American dudes. So it's melting pot in Los Angeles. But it's crazy. And then just today, they signed arguably the best left-handed reliever in the game for 4 years, $72 million, which includes a $20 million bonus and a $21 million deferred. Tanner Scott off the Padres. So the Dodgers just continue to basically own baseball. At this point, are they going to lose a game next year? Obviously they will, but I think they will make a serious run at the all-time record for wins in a season, which is 116.
So they're playing Moneyball with actual money.
Yeah.
And buying all the best players, essentially. We've talked about this before, but your odds obviously go up, but there's still a chance for other teams, but it's not as good of a chance when all the best players are on one team, right?
It's getting to the point where there's a chance for other teams, but as far as paying these guys, I used to think any team could do this, what the Dodgers are doing. I don't think that any team can do this to the extent that the Dodgers are doing it, if that makes sense.
Well, I've always associated like the Yankees with big spenders, right? And I think maybe historically they have been, but this is a different level of spend.
This is like nothing we've ever seen, in my opinion. They don't have a hole on the roster.
And when you say a hole, I assume you mean position is not good. But I also don't see a hole in the bag of money that they have.
No.
Players either.
No.
They have unlimited, basically, money.
Yeah. The Dodgers are a business that prints money. They sell out everywhere. They sell out every single game. They have the highest league attendance in all of baseball. They've got a whole entire country dedicated basically to them because, outside of what the Cubs have Imanaga and Suzuki, but I don't think there's another team that has more than 2 Japanese players, and they're not nearly as popular as these 3 are. No way. You've got 3 MVPs, former MVPs that bat 1, 2, 3 in your lineup. They're absolutely loaded. It's crazy. And like I told you a couple weeks ago, they just signed a freaking utility guy for a bigger contract than the White Sox have ever signed a player, ever. So the rich get richer. And I know other teams complain, other fans of teams complain, but this is the Dodgers saying, you know what, we're committed to winning. We're going to do whatever it takes to do it. And if you don't like it, beat us. So,
I I almost kind of think this is like, physical or PEDs, right? Other HGH, whatever it may be.
Financial PED.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who doesn't really care, I think it's really interesting. But I think this is more destructive to the league than PEDs or performance enhancing, whatever you want to call them. Because not every team has access to the financial, components that are making this happen.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when you have a small market team and they go up against and play the Dodgers and it's an absolute slaughter, or it's not competitive or whatever it may be? Like, to me, this type of financial jujitsu that they're doing is way more destructive, at least, again, as a casual outsider. If you can just buy all the best players and there's no repercussions, essentially, for having the highest payroll and being able to sign all those players, why not? It's the same thing in my mind.
It's fair. I think a lot of people share your opinion. I don't know.
I mean, I'll go and be like, all right, they become like the circus, basically. Oh, the Dodgers are in town. I'm going to go see them. And you don't care about even, the team that you're there for, right? I mean, diehards are going to be diehards, right? They'll always be fans and stuff like that. But
and other teams use it to their advantage. It's like, okay, when the Dodgers come to town, we charge more for tickets because they're going to sell.
Capitalism.
A lot of teams do that when the Yankees come to town.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you're saying makes sense, and I think a lot of people are crying for a salary cap in baseball. But a lot of people are also crying for a salary floor because they bitch that their owners don't spend enough.
If you own a professional team, you're probably doing okay.
You probably are. So you owe, and a lot of people would say you owe it to the league and to your fans to pay enough to put a professional team on the field.
You do.
Yeah.
There are clearly different stratospheres when it comes to billionaires.
Yes. I mean, the owner of, I always use this team as an example, the owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates does not have LA Dodger money. The owner of the Colorado Rockies doesn't have LA Dodger money. The Tampa Bay Rays, who have to rebuild their stadium, for Christ's sake, don't have Dodger money. The Athletics, who are going to go play in a 13,000 person stadium for 3 years while their new stadium in Vegas is being built, obviously is not going to make Dodger money. So, yeah, is it an even playing field? No, it certainly is not. And I don't know, because I don't see the players union ever agreeing to a salary cap. I know the collective bargaining agreement, I think, ends at the end of next year. And unfortunately, that's going to be a huge point of contention when they go to the bargaining table. You're probably going to see a lockout by the owners because, the players aren't going to want the cap. The owners are going to want it, or at least some owners are going to want it. And other owners are going to want a salary floor. Some owners aren't going to want that. The players won't agree to the cap, like I said. So there's going to be some labor issues that they need to work on going forward, and you could see a work stoppage in baseball in the very near future. So we'll see.
And that's never good for anybody.
No, it's not.
Nobody wins in that scenario.
No, because when that happened back in 94, ironically, that was the year that the White Sox were extremely good, and a lot of people around baseball thought that was going to be the year that they would go win the World Series. But when that happened in 94, it was a long strike, so people went away from the game for a long time, and that's why people say McGuire and Sosa saved baseball in 98, because in those 3 years in between, baseball really struggled with attention because people said, you know what? Screw this. You guys aren't going to play. Why should I pay attention anymore? And when they came back, big freaking deal. So,
well, it's also, I think there's like the class warfare type thing too, where it's like, oh, the millionaires and billionaires are fighting. I don't care.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with me. I have neither of those things. Get your shit together.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's the common man like you and me who go to games, buy their stuff, follow it. We're the ones that pay for all that, right? So
yes. And I mean, I think everybody has an affinity towards sports, right? Obviously, you're a big baseball guy. I am not. If baseball were to stop for any reason, it would have almost no impact on my life. For you, it'd be a much bigger impact because you're a much bigger fan.
It would.
But I think, each sport
yeah,
has that level of, I think, involvement.
Of course.
Yes.
I mean, everybody has diehards, right? Of the four sports, I'll admit baseball's my favorite. But for other people, football's their favorite. For some,
I'm an
it's
NFL
basketball.
person, but I feel like as much as I love the NFL and it's by far my favorite sport, has been for a very long time. I mean, forever probably. I don't know how upset I would be if they were to stop playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, now I have the fall and winter open on Sundays, and I'll find something else. I'll play video games or watch movies or something like that. Like,
sure,
I'm not that diehard of a sports fan where I live, eat, sleep, drink it. Despite what this podcast has been like for the last 15, 16 episodes, we talk about football. This is the most football I have watched in a very long time, and I have watched every single Bears game. I can't remember the last time I watched every single Bears game. Part of the excitement, Caleb, and stuff like that. But I'm still like, okay, if they didn't come back next year and it was like, all right, call me when you guys are ready to figure it out, and the season starts again. If it was, oh, we lost a season or we lost 2 seasons, yeah, I'd come back and I'd watch, and I wouldn't care so much during those 2 years. I would be disappointed, sure, but it's not going to wreck my life.
No, I don't think it would wreck my life either. I would say this though, my life would experience a dramatic shift because I'll admit I do watch a ton of sports. I watch a lot of football, baseball. As much as I love it, I'll admit it's hard. It's difficult to watch. It's difficult to lock into a baseball game for 2.5 hours. I personally would rather watch my kids play baseball, or I would rather watch college baseball versus at major leagues. But if that went away, yeah, I could find other stuff to do. Ask my wife; she'd give me a ton of shit to do. Believe me, things would happen. I wouldn't, cease to exist or anything like that. I could live without it. But yeah, I mean, it would upset me, but yeah, just like when COVID happened and sports went away, that's a perfect example. I mean, we moved on.
That's a really good example. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause they weren't playing for the longest time, and, I mean, life went on. Yeah. It was pretty boring, but things still happened, and we got through it, and you adjust, right? It's pretty much like anything else. If something goes away, you adjust.
I think there was always the assumption it would be back. Yeah. I think that's kind of how I feel. It's like, okay, this is a temporary thing. Yeah, then maybe they take a year and everybody feels a bunch of pain. The millionaires, lose $1 million. And they're still all rich. Okay, they'll figure it out eventually and they'll come back, right? Or they'll come back with, okay, I think the most drastic thing would be the players, the owners essentially decide, we're done with you, players, no matter what sport it is. And they start something fresh, where unions have not been established, and they go out and get other players to fill those roles, and eventually, it becomes something else.
Yeah, and I think it's a question of, okay, who would bite first? I mean, would the owners run out of money first, or would the players run out of money first? The players, in a lot of cases, they don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah,
I mean, this is
what
they
would go overseas, or they would, figure out some other way. Saudi Arabia would start
dedicated their life to, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You would see, like, whatever the live version of golf, you would see that for the NFL, NBA, and MLB.
Yeah, so we'll see. And if there is a work stoppage, I mean, yeah, it might last a couple of months, but it's like two kids that aren't talking to each other. It's like, okay, who's going to bite first? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the Dodgers situation is interesting. There will be baseball this year for sure, and it'll be interesting to see how many games they are able to win, and will they win it all again? Because they have to be, I would think, a pretty heavy favorite. So,
if you're not the favorite and you've spent that much money,
you've kind of,
what is going on?
What the hell are you doing?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. But hey, I mean, the Cubs supposedly finished second. in the Tanner Scott deal. I guess the Dodgers kind of swooped in and took him. So obviously the Cubs are looking to spend something. My question would be, do they turn to former Kyle Tucker teammate Alex Bregman to potentially play third base for them now that they have the money that they were going to spend on Tanner Scott? And, he could fit. They do have a third base opening. They say they're going to go in-house with it, but if Bregman's still there, might not be a bad pickup for them. And we'll see what if Kyle Tucker has any influence on that or not. So, and if they do sign Bregman long-term, would that help them keep Tucker long-term? So we'll see.
Is it deflating for owners of other teams to see what the Dodgers are doing and take the attitude of saying, well, why should I spend? We really don't have a shot. Let me put
I'm sure there's
the
some of
minimum
that.
viable product on the field.
I'm sure there's some of that, but does pride kind of take over and still say, I'm going to compete the best I can. I'm going to put the best product on the field I can, so my fans will come. Like if you're the Marlins, and you're looking at the Dodgers saying, we're never going to get out of the National League, whatever. We don't make a whole lot of money. But I think like I said, you have that pride factor, because what if you put that one team together that even though they may not be worth a whole lot, they just, for whatever reason, come together. Chemistry is there. They win. They get hot at the right time, go through the playoffs, and win it all. There's always a chance,
There's
right?
always a chance.
Because that's why they play the games.
Right.
I mean,
again, it's an odds thing.
Yeah, no World Series has ever been just one on paper. You got to go out and play the games. So
yeah. Well, there's also a pride component, right? So
yeah,
some teams have it, and some owners have it. Some don't.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll see. Should be a fun year. And I know
it's still baseball. It's still
baseball. You will not want to talk about it. But
yeah, you're gonna have to tell me what's going on, because if it's anything like the last 20 years, I probably want to watch no more than what would amount to an entire game throughout the entire season.
Yeah. Well, I'll take you through a different brand of baseball. So we talked last week on how I supposedly had to go to baseball practice, which was why I had to end the podcast. Well, that practice got canceled. But since then, we have had 2 practices. We had one yesterday and one today. And it marks my return to coaching youth baseball after I did it for, the better part of 10 years or so. And I've been out of it for, I don't know, 3 or 4. And a buddy of mine talked me into helping with his son's 13U team. So I'm back in it. And we've had 2 practices under our belt. And dude, I will say, coaching 13-year-old kids is an absolute blast. It's awesome.
They're uncorrupted at this point, I would imagine.
They
for the
are.
most part.
What's nice about coaching 13 is they know the basics. Because I remember coaching 6-year-old, like coach pitch T-ball and, throwing the ball underhand. Yeah. And teaching kids how to throw, how to catch, all that stuff. Man, does that take some patience. Yeah. It was fun, but it's a different kind of fun. With 13-year-olds, you can actually talk to them about baseball concepts and start to talk advanced parts of the game, and they get it, or they look like they get it. So we're talking about, these guys I think there's 2 8th graders and the rest of them are 7th graders. So we're emphasizing about getting them ready for high school baseball. It's like, if you're going to be serious about your baseball, 7th grade is usually about the time to make the decision of, I'm either going to try and take this all the way through high school, or I'm just going to go out and play for fun. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them. Mm-hmm. You want to go out, have a good time, play for fun with your buddies, enjoy the hell out of it. If you want to play in high school and potentially try and play in college and have baseball help fuel your education, which my kids did, 7th grade is about when you really need to start taking it seriously. So we're in the middle of that. I did witness a rough exchange between a kid and his dad the other night, which was really tough to watch, to be honest with you. There's a young man on our team who has autism, and he's pretty, I mean, he functions no problem, right? He's just kind of high anxiety and expects a lot from himself.
Sounds like every other human being.
Yeah, right. I know. This kid hits the shit out of the baseball. He's very strong. He's bigger than your average 13-year-old. But when he fails or when he's struggling, it is like he just goes bananas. This is the kid who wants to bat 1,000 every time and expects perfection. So there was exchange between him and his dad last night. His dad threw him out of practice, told him to go sit in the car. And so he was out there. Mind you, it's about 10 degrees out in the car. This kid got so upset, ripped his shirt right off, went outside, no shirt on. I'm like, oh, man. So one of our other coaches gave it about 5 minutes and went out and talked to him, brought him back in. We got him calmed down, and the rest of practice ensued, and we did fine. No issue. Today, he came to practice, much better attitude, was very coachable today, did all the things we asked him to do, and it was a complete 180. So that's my victory for the weekend, was getting that kid to not only participate, but to thrive in a situation where the day before he just wasn't having it. And I have complete respect for parents out there who are trying to raise kids with autism, because I see the challenge. I never really understood it before. Now I do, because it's tough. And, it's going to be an interesting year with that young man. And I know my throat's getting all scratchy, and I don't know why. But it will be a big learning experience for me as far as autism goes. So,
yeah, I don't know what to say about that other than, it's a tough spot. If anybody can handle it, though, you're the man for that kind of stuff for sure. You've got the patience of a saint for sure. It's interesting, though, to have. I want to go back to the baseball side of it.
Yeah, sure.
Feel like I can add any value anywhere else. When you're coaching up these 13-year-olds,
mm-hmm.
How many of them are there because they like the game? And is it too soon to really kind of like, oh yeah, I want to make this my life? Or I mean, I don't know if I'm kind of articulating it right, but how many are there for fun, and how many of them see them like, yeah, I want to be a starter and be in the NMLB, right? And that's my goal in life. I almost feel like 13 is too young to even know that.
But believe it or not, yeah, and I know what you're getting at, and it didn't used to be that way. The travel baseball circuit has changed so much, even since, probably in the last 6-7 years. It's just blown up to where it's become a multi-million-dollar business. These parents pay thousands of dollars for their kids to play. I mean, it used to be, for rec baseball, you paid a couple $100. You played 15 games a year. You had practice once a week. You played, once on the weekend and once during the week. You had like a 7 or 8 week season in the spring, and then everybody went off and enjoyed their summer. Now, you got teams out there playing 50, 60, 70 games a season. You've got indoor practice that starts right after the first of the year, and it's really difficult for a kid that age to play other sports. Because you got other kids who are playing, they're playing basketball. We have a couple kids on our team who wrestle. And obviously we want them to be committed to that because that's the season that they're in, right? But it's becoming, to be a successful baseball player, it's hard not to dedicate yourself probably 9 months out of the year to it. And the reason I say that, I'm not saying it's right. I don't agree with that, but it's because it's what your competition is doing. And if you want to play in high school and you want to excel in high school, that's what you're up against. So it's unfortunate, but it's what's become the culture of baseball. And, and I would say the same is probably for basketball. I know football's got a lot of regulations to it and things like that and limitations football is well governed, if you will. Travel baseball is not. It is a total wild, wild west. There are teams down south who play 12 months out of the year. And it's nuts. And that's why I think you're seeing so many arms blow out. And you hear the term Tommy John surgery with just about every pitcher at some point. And some of these kids are having Tommy John surgery in high school, which is, in my mind, is really sad because, some kids are throwing, 100 pitches and they're like 10, 11. I'll admit my kid did it. He did it. I coached him to do it. And looking back on it, he wanted to do it. I didn't force him to do it at all. But looking back on it, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that, Luckily, he was able to handle it, but there are kids out there who paid for it later on, We had a guy at my son's high school team, Justin's high school team, about 6 years ago, he was throwing 95 as a senior in high school and was a huge, prospect. I mean, he had scholarship to University of Mississippi, which is a big SEC school down in, obviously Mississippi, where they play big-time college baseball, and he blew out his arm. And he struggled to come back, and he's still trying to come back. I think he just pitched last year somewhere in Canada, some semi-pro league, because he's still trying to make it. Because that's the only thing this kid has done in, the past 5 years is pitch. That's it. So it's unfortunate that that's what it's created, but it is what it's created. And in order for these kids to compete, you do kind of have to make the decision, is this going to be my sport of choice or not? I hate that it is that way, but it kind of is. And I don't know how you stop it. I really don't know how you stop it. I would love to talk about, there's a couple guys who, if we ever really want to get into it, who run travel programs that I could put on this podcast. We could talk about that for an hour and what they think of the travel baseball circuit, because travel baseball here in Chicago is enormous. It is huge. Oh yeah.
Well, I'd be happy to talk to anybody. I can ask my newbie questions.
Yeah.
What is baseball?
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing that right? Baseball?
Yeah.
Do you find that
I know.
In those situations where those young men are playing a sport, I'm sure there's some desire of their own, but how often do you come across parents who are pushing it on the child? And it's clear the child isn't really that interested in it.
More often than you think.
Really?
I'll give you one example. When I was coaching a team, it was Justin's team a few years ago. I had a young man who I had coached for 5 years. I had this kid for a long time. Our team split up because we had some coaching philosophies that were different. So we formed our own travel team. I took this kid with me for the first year. I had him, I think, when he was 6, maybe 7 years old, all the way through 13. So actually I had him longer than I thought I did. So we played the 12U season, and then we were going to 13. And the 12U season, he was one of our end of the bench guys. He played okay, but I could tell that the game was starting to pass him up.
When you say pass up, meaning he wasn't keeping pace with it, or he just wasn't interested in it?
He wasn't advancing as much as the other kids were. I could tell his level of interest wasn't there as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But his mom and his dad really wanted him to play because I think other than him coming to practice, all he did was sit at home, and play video games or whatever. They wanted him to have some sort of physical activity, and baseball was it for him. Well, we wanted to, and again, this is part of the travel world. We wanted to compete at a higher level. And this kid was unfortunately not able to do that. I'll admit, our coaching staff made the decision that if we were going to move in the direction that we wanted to, he wasn't good enough to be a part of it. We need to, and we did it with 3 others too. So we cut 4 kids that year. And unfortunately, I was the one who made the call because I was the head coach. So I called his dad, let him go. It was one of the hardest phone calls I've ever had to make.
Is that what you do? You talk to the parents?
Yeah. Yeah. At that age, yes. If they were a little older, I would talk to the kids themselves. But he was 12 at the time, and I'm not gonna do that to a 12-year-old. So I talked to his dad.
So what does the parent say in that situation if you get that phone call? I mean, I don't want to make light of it, but it's like, the baseball team is moving to a farm up in New York, right? Or something like that. Like you would tell a kid, their dog, what happened to their dog?
In this case, this parent was not happy. I was ruining his career, ruining his kid's career. He thought that he had built enough of a relationship with us to where this would never happen. I was basically you're the
bad guy.
I'm the bad guy, exactly.
Yes.
I ruined this kid's life. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And in that case, and in the other 3 cases too, I'll admit, I haven't talked to any of these parents ever since this happened. And 2 of them live in my neighborhood. So it's unfortunate, but it happened. So we, replaced them, got different kids. Long story short, we were able to compete at a national level. We competed in a national tournament. We actually played a game where we tied the number 1 team in the nation at 12U, and we were missing one of our better players. Justin was out because he had a broken arm, and we went down to Florida and played that team as best we could. But a year later, one of my assistant coaches ran into that dad, and that dad went up to him and said, if you ever see Coach Jason, he goes, please tell him I said that I'm sorry. And he said, I did not realize that my kid did not want to play baseball anymore because he never told me. But when I delivered the news to him, he was actually relieved. And he's like, the parent basically realized that he was the one forcing his kid to play ball. So
good on him for making that realization.
Yeah, and that message was relayed to me. And I felt a lot better, but I'm glad that was the resolution. Doesn't make it
easier in the time at the moment.
No, it doesn't. No.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of parents use sports as, I don't want to say babysitters, but I think that's part of it. I think a lot of parents use sports as a way to just get their kids moving. It's tough today, man. I mean, kids are glued to their phones. They're glued to, and you're a video gamer. I'm a video gamer. It's tough to get away from that. A lot of parents want to get their kids away from that, especially today. The video games are better than ever, and kids just get glued to, video games and Snapchat and,
TikToks
TikTok
and everything. Yeah, exactly.
All that stuff. So they want kids being more, physically active. So they don't, I guess, we have a child obesity problem, all that, whatever it is. But
I think I think it's good to have that exposure to different things because you just don't know, right? What the kid is going to be interested in or how long they're going to be interested in it. And I think there's a natural inclination to try and have people who are well-rounded, to some degree.
Yeah.
Until they figure it out. And who knows, right? Maybe it's, I love X, but that love is only 10 years. Maybe it's, I played as a kid in high school, but then I go to college or whatever, and my interest changes, and that's fine too.
Oh, for sure.
But to force it on kids is always something that I don't think it's the right way to do it.
No, I don't think so either. I think it should be the kid's decision.
It's like eating food that you don't want to eat. Try it.
Yeah.
Don't just say you don't like it without trying it. Right.
Yeah. And
take a bite. If you don't like it, that's one thing. But if you've never tried it, I think you should at least try it once before you make that decision.
Yeah. And my goal for any kid would be to stop playing on your own terms.
Mm.
Luckily, we talked to Justin back in episode, I think it was 3, when he said, yeah, he played all this time, but when it was done, he was ready for it to be done. I hope that happens to every kid out there. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It didn't for me. I stopped playing because I was told it wasn't good enough anymore. And that was at the end of high school. And yeah, it hurts. It totally hurts. But I mean, it's like it's what happens in life, right? It's not going to be the first time you're told you're not good enough, I mean,
right.
It might happen at work. It might happen in a relationship. It happens, So.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's an unfortunate part, but
that's right.
Sometimes it's good that
it's
happens.
Life.
Yeah.
It's life.
May even save you time, right? If you're not good enough and someone keeps blowing sunshine at you saying, oh yeah, you're the best of the best, you never make it anywhere. Think of all that time that you've wasted.
That's right.
And,
you can't just blow smoke, man.
Right.
As coaches and stuff, I mean, yeah, we're here to pump you up and help you, but we're also here to tell you the truth. If you're not getting it, I want you to go find something that you do get, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there's a difference between encouragement and I don't know, whatever the word is for telling, just in the face of every fact saying that this is not going to happen, continue to push past that.
Yeah. Well, to wrap this up, I could tell you that this guy's asked me to coach with him before, and I was kind of on the fence to do it. Finally, he asked me this year, and I'm like, God damn it, I don't really have a reason to tell him no. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I can already tell that I'm going to absolutely love this 10 times more than I even thought I would. Glad I'm back in it. Really looking forward to the season, and I will report on it often. So it'll be fun.
So I got one more question about this topic.
Yes.
Does your team have an identity?
No, not yet. Not yet. But
do you have an idea of what it might be, or is it still too soon even to just get that part?
We talked about this today, actually, between the coaches. We didn't talk about it with the kids, but me and my friend who I coach with, we're talking about this today. It's like, okay, what do we want the team to be known for? Me personally, I want to be known for infield defense. That I want my 4 infielders to just be rock solid, because that's what I'm working on with them. I want them to be the best. So I want us to be known as the team that knows how to play defense. And I want us to be the smartest baseball team out there. We might not be the most talented. We might not hit the ball the furthest, but we don't make mental errors. We don't make mistakes. We may make physical errors, and that's fine, but we don't make mistakes. That's what I want to be known for. So that's what we're going to work towards.
I'm disappointed. I want to hear, I want to be the goons.
Well,
my 13-year-olds to beat up their 13-year-olds.
We did tell the middle infield guys today that they were the rats of the team. And then we told we're big guys, and I said, you guys are the meat of this team. So there you go. Because we've got some size discrepancies on this team. We got one kid who doesn't weigh more than 80 pounds, and I got another one who's probably pushing 180. So at that age, they come in all shapes and sizes. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, we'll see. We'll gain an identity as we move along.
Do you ever, and I won't need to name names, but do you ever hear of or have a suspicion of a coach telling a player to hit another player? Meaning like a pitcher, like throw inside, stuff like that. Does that happen? Even at that age, 13?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Jeff, I have seen that happen. I've seen coaches be ready to throw down and fight each other.
Yeah, I feel like that's like coaches and parents are like the things. But when you start telling players to drill other players,
Here, all right, quick story, because I know we're pushing an hour and a half here. Quick story. A couple of years ago, I was at a game where one of our fans, my team's fans, was jawing at the other team's left fielder. Like they were going back and forth. I'm like, is this really happening? This dad and a 16-year-old are going after one another, and it was a tight game, blah, blah, blah. I forget what exactly took place where somebody finally had enough. But all of a sudden, there was a fuck you that came from our fans to one of the field, or to one of their players. All of a sudden, every player from their dugout came running around the fence. And I'll never forget it. It was myself, Michelle, and another mom standing between the rest of our fans and about 13, 16-year-olds running full speed at us. And they're ready to fight. And I was like,
hold the line.
Yeah. I remember telling Michelle, I said, get ready, because I don't know what's going to happen here. Long story short, they got to us, and we just kind of said, whoa, 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 whoa. We were able to curtail it. But I'm telling you, these kids, and eventually our kids, came out of the dugout because they were, 16-year-old kids. They're like, yeah, let's go. Mm-hmm. So it has come that close. You see some heavy duty stuff. You see a lot of arguing. You see coaches get thrown out of games all the time. It gets very intense. To answer your question, it gets very intense.
If it weren't so creepy for me as a white male with no children to go hang around parks and watch kids play baseball, that almost sounds interesting for me to go and do.
Oh yeah, it's.
Which one is your? Because I'm not here. I just want to see them fight. Okay, creep.
It makes you really question society, if you will.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on that makes me question society.
No, I know. And one of those things is tomorrow. I know.
Yeah, whatever. We'll see what happens. Let's hope things are successful. That's all I'll say.
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay, well, I was just interested because I even though I don't care for the sport, there's a psychological element to coaching and kids and parents that I find interesting.
Oh, there's a ton. And for me, it's more than just the baseball. It's like you have to realize that what you're teaching within the sport, you're kind of almost, and I know it'll sound kind of weird, but you're almost teaching them about life, right? It's like you're teaching them to work as a team. You're teaching them to listen to a boss. You're teaching them to be a part of something that you want to be successful, that kind of thing. So you're teaching them how to contribute to a team and, how to support other people, that kind of thing, and how to interact. I mean, one of our biggest things, believe it or not, is I talk about this all the time, is, hey, focus on your baseball, but I also want you to focus on your schoolwork and focus on your relationships with your family. Because, a lot of these kids, I mean, they're early teenagers, right? And it's like, if you can't respect yourself you can't respect your schoolwork, and you can't respect your family, how the hell are you going to respect what we talk to you about, So, you're trying to teach them to be well-rounded kids. And sometimes that message comes different from your coach than it does from your mom or dad. So,
a lot of times I think coaches are seen as father figures and mentors for a lot of, kids.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Or maybe a replacement for something that's missing, or maybe an augment to something that's already there.
Yeah.
But either way, I think you look back and say, okay, coaches tend to play that role, especially for the younger folks.
No doubt about it. I had, and it can go both ways, right? I mean, you can remember a coach for the right reasons. You can remember a coach for the wrong reasons. I learned a ton of baseball coaching from my high school coach, and most of which was what not to do and how not to handle things. So, and he was a very successful coach. He was an asshole.
Like a Friday Night Lights coach scenario?
Yeah, kind of. Kind of. But I think now he's the official scorer for the Chicago Cubs. So he's, he's doing all right.
Well, sometimes people fail up. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Another 90 minutes, 95 minutes.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's all I got, man. I think, we covered it.
Yeah. All right. So next week we got, was it Washington and Philly? We're both pulling for Washington. And we got the Bills versus the Chiefs. And are we both pulling for the Bills?
Oh, I'm pulling for the Bills. but some way, somehow.
Yeah. I here I'm going to go on a limb and say I think this is the game where the horseshoe finally falls out of that ass, and the world comes tumbling down around the Kansas City Chiefs. Not that I hate them or anything like that, but just I think they're such a flawed team. They should not be in the conference championship.
Well, I don't think we've seen the best Patrick Mahomes this year. I think he's come back to earth a little bit.
He made the Pro Bowl. I mean, look, he's a good quarterback, but he also didn't have the weapons either.
No.
Which, okay, that's part of it. But yeah, he has not been the Patrick Mahomes of the last 3 or 4 years.
He hasn't been that great. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he still has Travis Kelce. He has Xavier Worthy, who's, I mean, he's not quite Tyreek Hill, but he's pretty good. He's got, I mean, he still has, what's his face? Is it Hunt?
Yeah, but they cut him already once, and they brought him back.
Yeah, they did
cut him,
and they brought him back, and then he's got Pacheco, but and they have DeAndre Hopkins, but they never use him for whatever reason. Which is weird to me.
So weird. Is that because he's basically double covered every play and he's drawing defense, and the other side can't? The other players opposite him aren't drawing as much. I mean, Kelce should be drawing.
Because I don't think Hopkins had a catch this weekend.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, I think I think the Bills are just playing. I mean, yeah, it was close in the end, but I mean, Buffalo won. I mean, really had not much of a problem with the Ravens today, which I didn't think was going to be the case. I really did.
Yeah, I just think
they are really well rounded. They do everything well. So
yeah, they didn't need even 200 yards passing from a Josh Allen to win today.
I don't think he even had 150. I think he had like 100.
He did not have a passing game, but he made runs when it needed, and the run defense was there, the offense was there, the defense was there, and they made plays when they needed it.
Yeah. So
all right, well then let's go on a limb and say let's go Bills and let's go Commanders.
Bills Commanders.
All right, we'll find out.
I'm with it
if we're right or not next week.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Then I guess that's it. I'll talk to you later. I'm done with you. Scram.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.